and he was able to identify where he lived in the past. He was in a temple, and he was able to go there and identify the place. And he talked about certain things that seemed unusual. He said that he had an elephant in his past life, and that he used to drive a red car. And it was unusual for monks to have their own cars. But they found a person who was a monk in this same temple who had passed of a heart attack, and he did have a red car. And I guess there was an elephant in the village, and this monk had a particular liking, had kind of a relationship with this elephant where he'd go to visit him a lot. So I thought that was really spot on.
Fantastic. And also we have a coast guest by the name of Brian Weiss, who you're very familiar with. He's got some stories too.
Yeah, Brian Weiss is, he's just amazing. He's a past life regression therapist.
Yes.
That might not know. And and he kind of stumbled upon it, George. I know you know because you've interviewed him, but he was treating a patient by the name of Catherine, and he was trying to help her deal with some trauma that happened as a child. She was having a lot of anxiety, and he tried to bring her back through hypnosis to identify the trauma and help her get past it, and inadvertently brought her back in between lifetimes. And then they continued this practice and went back into various lifetimes that she had lived.
What, Kathleen, is called table tipping? What is that?
Oh, table tipping? It's a form of physical mediumship, and the way it works is it's a small round table with a pedestal, not four legs, but like a pedestal underneath it, so it can move. I experienced it for the first time at a spiritualist church. My husband and I had heard about it. They were having a night of table tipping, and we went, not having any idea what to expect. And we were at a table with two other people. One of them was the pastor of the church, and she's also a medium. And this is before I developed mediumship, so she was there and was picking up some messages while we were attempting this. But there were four of us sitting around this table, and you kind of very lightly put your fingers on the table, all of you, and like your fingertips, really. There's no real pressure. And if there's a spirit there that wants to come through and communicate with somebody, the table will start to move. And you're sitting there with intention. So it's not that you're sitting at a table having tea or something around this table. If you have an intention of communicating with spirit, and the table starts to vibrate a little bit, and then it starts to rock. And it was really pretty mind-blowing when this happened for us. The table started to rock back and forth, and then it walked. It sounds like a crazy thing to say, that the table walked, but I don't know how else to say it, other than it made its way over to me and landed in my lap.
That's amazing.
And that was one of the things that really pulled me in and wanted me to learn how to communicate, because it became very clear to me then that yes, there are people in spirit who are close to us. The table that same night spelled out the name, but when I say spelled out, it's it will rock back and forth, and if it's rocks once, it's an A. If it rocks twice, it's a B. You go through this little process with it, and it spelled out the name of my friend who had passed over, and I was grieving him, and that was really what had brought me there. And yeah, so I had this confirmation that he still existed.
That's fantastic. It really is. What do you think of angels?
I don't know what the difference is. I haven't had direct communication with angels. It seems to me to be the ones that come to me are my personal family and friends, but also I've had teachers and guides who will come in and talk to me. I'm quite sure there are angels. I just haven't had that experience.
You do private and group readings, don't you, as a medium?
No, I don't. I've never worked as a medium. As a matter of fact, George, I was very private about the fact that I'm a medium until recently. it's just something that, you know, my husband and I have done it for years now, and we'll share that with people in our family, you know, or if somebody, you know, really needs help, they're grieving, and that, you know, comes to me and says, you know, through one of my sisters or something like that, really needs a reading, I'll do that, but it's not something that I've ever done publicly.
Why not? Are you just very private about it?
I am to me it's a sacred thing. It feels to me like it's very personal because of the people I'm communicating with. They're people that I love. Yeah, it just has always felt that way.
And there unfortunately are some people who say they're mediums who take advantage of people.
Yes, there are. There are. And some of them, I think, really do think they are mediums, George.
Some of them think they are. Some of them are,
yes,
and do a good job, and then some of them may be hucksters.
Yeah, it never felt like to me that it was something that I could ever take money for. I would never do that. It's hard to explain other than for me to say it's sacred work.
No, I get it.
Yeah, and so I thought, you know, the best way for me to share this talent is to write about it.
You said you were a Roman Catholic. You basically have left the church, but you're still very spiritual. A lot of people have probably followed in your same kind of footsteps. What do you think this is all about? This divine creation, this intelligent design. What is it?
You know, I feel like we've barely tapped the surface of it, George. I think it's immense. But to me, the life force that we all have is God. I perceive God in every living creature. And my spiritual practice is, I follow something that I didn't even know there was a name for this until a few years ago. It's called ahimsa. It's part of an Indian practice. It's an ancient Indian practice, and it means non-injury to all living beings. And that's how I try to live, because I think that God is in everything. And you know, the birds outside our windows are, you know, even you know, the trees and everything that's alive. I feel like we're all part of this God force.
Yeah, I think you're right. Have you ever tried to come up with the rationale of how it started? All of this?
You know, I don't think I'm capable of it, to be honest. I mean, it's an interesting thought. I mean, when I was a child, I remember asking my mom, well, you know, she would say that you were made by God. And I'd say, well, who made God? And if she would not know how to answer my
question. And we wanted answers, didn't we?
Yes, even then. And still, but now I feel less need to, you know, I have the intuitive connectedness to feel God, and I think I'm only going to get so far intellectually as a human being. I think to be able to feel it is enough for me.
I would ask my mother the same question, and she would give me the answer, always was, always will be. And I say, Mom, that doesn't answer my question. She said, that's the answer. He always was, always will be. But I said, I don't understand that.
Yes.
We're going to take calls next hour with Kathleen. Questions, stories, same kind of thing. If you want to give us your theories on how this all started, jump aboard. We'd love to hear from you. When you do your work as a personal medium for yourself, what has surprised you the most? One of those head-shaking episodes.
Head-shaking, well, I can tell you a couple of short ones. While using a table and table tipping, because we don't do that as much anymore, but we did do that when I was developing mediumship. And my husband lost a friend who was a drummer. He was a really young guy, and he passed away. And when he came through, he would make the table move in such a way that it was like a rhythm. It was, and we'd always say, oh, that's Bobby. We'd say, because we could hear
you knew
tapping out music.
You could tell, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could tell. And another time, I was communicating with a spirit who is a personal guide to me, and he is very powerful. So people come through in different ways, and so some people come in kind of meekly, and they, for instance, if you're using the table, it might move just a little bit. It's different for every person who comes through. But this particular guy that's a guide to me, he will come through with so much force that he has a lot of fun making the table move. So there's a pedestal and has 3 little feet on the bottom, moving from foot to foot and then spinning, moving so fast it will spin on one leg. I mean, just remarkable.
If you weren't doing the mediumship primarily for yourself, what do you think you'd be doing now?
I think I'd still be writing, but I may be working part-time as a lawyer still. I don't know. I don't know if I would or not. I'm happier now. I feel like my path unfolded the way it should have. Was it a big decision for you to make that transition? Yes, it was a big decision. It was concerning because we have a family. We have 2 daughters, and one of them was just about to go to college, and the other one was, she's 10 years younger. So we had, financial concerns. Sure. And we were thinking, like, this is something that we wanted to do. My husband is really my true life partner and just completely supported me with this. And I think he wanted me to leave the practice a lot more than I did because, he knew that I'd always been so tuned into writing stories. Mm-hmm. So it was a leap of faith. But it brought us to a good place. Was being a lawyer kind of beating you down? It was. It was beating me down. It's not an easy thing to work that intensely, particularly when I was doing the divorce work, and it just, to do that all day, to be in, helping people with their conflicts, and then coming home, getting home at dinner time, and having a husband and 2 kids and a house and, a dog and all the things that it's a lot. Are your parents still with you? They are not. I've lost both my parents. You have? Okay. My mother's 93. She's going to be 94 in May. Lost my father at 88, which was a pretty good run. He could have gone a little longer, but he had fallen, and I think it took its toll, but... What did the family say, though, when you told them, I'm going to leave law, I want to be a medium? The funny thing is, most people didn't know that I was a medium, and, I told my sisters, so I told you I lost one sister, but I have 3 other sisters, and I told them after I got pretty good at it. In the beginning, I didn't, because, we had all lost our sister Mary, and I didn't want to put anything out there that I couldn't really solidify and share with them. And once I did, they understood. How old was Mary when she passed? She was 45. Oh, that was young. Yeah, it was very unexpected. And, so it shook me. But it was one of the things that I feel like opened me up to being able to communicate. Kathleen, what do you say to people who say, I don't believe in the afterlife? It doesn't exist. And you may get a call or 2 like that. That's okay. I don't have any complaint of however people want to view it. I'm not trying to convince people. George, I've just found the information really has worked well in our lives, and I've been able to share that with, some people around us and to help them. But everybody has their own path. That's just what the spirit path is. You have to find your own way. And I would never try to convince somebody otherwise. So you don't get into arguments with them or anything like that? No. There's no room for argument for me. I just feel like if they're happy on that path, then that's where they should be. There was only one time I had my immediate doubts about the afterlife, and then I snapped out of it like within 10 seconds. When a friend of mine died in a motorcycle accident, and I was at the funeral home, and I'm looking at his body, and I'm going, this is it. This is it.
and it was a cold, stark feeling, but I snapped out of it. I mean, I went into it knowing there's an afterlife, and I left it knowing there was an afterlife. But in between, for that split moment, it was a very stark feeling. I didn't like it.
I understand that feeling because I've had it too. And when my mom passed, I was still in my 20s, and it really took a toll on me. I was really,
Distraught.
Really distraught.
All right, we're going to come back and take calls with you, Kathleen, in a moment on Coast to Coast AM.